said.
Making a request for me not to exercise my public speech during a grievance.
You have every right to exercise that public right. Hear what I'm saying. What I was saying was, please don't go there. It's a positive conversation. You don't have to take a slam or a swipe at him. Even if you felt disrespected, we'll handle that. But for us and what you're presenting, it's good stuff. So continue it on. That's all I was saying.
I'll attempt to do that. I appreciate that.
Because it was such a good day for 30,000 people to have an opportunity to clean up. And your protest sign, I have a right to, and I was a little offended by it, okay?
It's meant to offend, because I was offended prior to that, and there was a solution.
But you succeeded, because that sign was offensive.
Yes, ma'am.
Just me.
It's offensive when people that aren't supposed to be in handicap parking handicap parking, and I don't think that you have the capability.
I do have one question. Was he actually trespassed? I wasn't aware of any of this, and so I appreciate you bringing it up. I'm just curious, what was he actually trespassed? And then you came back, you said?
I was not only trespassed, but I was told I was trespassed by a second officer who verified it with the first officer. And I'd also say that there was a solution at that time that day. All I was requesting that day is at that time, I believe there were only 3 township vehicles. And all I did was ask them to move 3 township vehicles out of handicap parking, and they refused. That would have been another solution that could have, and you know who I am. You know I have no problem with offensive speech. One man's offensive speech is another man's charm song. And that's not the verbiage, but that's the context that high-level courts have determined and used in their determination to make the analogy that this is speech to be protected. And I also say that what happened that day is I would see citizens leaving, talk to officers, glance over at me laughing, and then on their way out say things that you would find offensive that they were saying to me.
Yeah, and certainly a free speech, there's no question about
Well, you
that.
say certainly free speech, but I just described to you in my speech how when I was exercising that free speech on what you are calling a closed lot, which was open to the public in a public event that was announced at this exact public meeting. It was a public event. To say it was closed, it had traffic in it from end to end. To say it was closed, I mean, maybe you can say it was conditionally closed, but to say it was closed like it was a closed lot with barriers where you can't get in or out, I think is misleading. It was a public event open to the public, advertised by the public in a public trustee meeting. When I was exercising freedom of press, before I was protesting, I was committing no crime, and then I was kicked off while committing no crime. And you say, of course it's free speech, but y'all are violating, and I mean the township as a whole, is violating the exact same speech out of one side of your being, while you're saying, of course it's free speech out of the other side. And that's what I'm fighting for. There's no way. And we were close to a deal recently. We called it a reset, and some of y'all, I think, thought that the reset went through, but the folks I was dealing with firsthand knows it didn't go through. But part of that was that y'all were going to start following the law. And,
Okay.
Since then I pointed out...
We always, never. But my point is, if in fact there was a violation, I guarantee you, if not tonight, but we will figure it out. If in fact there's a violation, and those cars were parked, and it should have been parked, and it does technically, as you say, well, you did invite the public, so it is publicly open, whatever. I guarantee you that won't happen next year. And I would concur, that's something that needs to be figured out. And if we violate it, I guarantee you, I'll be the first one to apologize. You know what? I'm sorry, Mr. Gages. Those cars shouldn't have been there. They will not be there next year, and we'll handle it.
I'm just gonna say this, the whole thing is ridiculous. You don't park, the ADA spaces are for the building access. If the building is closed, this whole scenario where somebody has to pull over and sit or something because they're in their car, I'm sorry, it's ludicrous.
So whatever the issues, whatever the elements that are negative to this, let's resolve them, because I certainly don't want to have to resolve canceling a day that everyone looks forward to and has even...
There's no need to cancel the event in the future, and there's no need to change our layout. It works. It's worked. If we can do some process improvement.
I appreciate that. Can I make just a few more comments?
Yeah.
The fact that we're investigating it at this point in the process is a big problem for me. That permission, I was told, was given by someone in the police department personnel. And the fact that we didn't research it on the front end is a problem. I also say where I was at that time, the time he's talking about wasn't unsafe. I was behind a thing that a car would have to run through to get me. I was told I could be in that area by a police officer or a corporal who later informed Skylar that he told him that I had every right to be there, and that didn't become a safety issue until after I started protesting and pointed out what I believe was a violation. And so I think the safety things that he's bringing up, some of them are just downright lies, out of context. And ultimately where I was standing when I was trespassed was where him and I walked to get to a place that he felt was safe. And you get the board together with a united statement to say that's not going to happen in future years. I think that alone can go a far way, because getting lawyers and going to court and all that stuff is like going to the dentist, or what I did today, going down and paying my tax bill. Again, if you give me a chance to talk more, I'm gonna probably abuse that to my own shortcoming. I'm gonna walk away and say thank you.
And that's good. I believe that you mean.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. Didn't prepare a speech today, so this is all ad hoc, so going out on a farther limb than I normally go. I want to talk about the cleanup day, Miss Stevie. On cleanup day, we had a good conversation. I appreciated that. I want to put a scenario by you. When I went up on cleanup day, I'd asked somebody how long they'd been in line, and they said an hour. And then I'd ended up leaving and coming back, and it'd been about another 30 minutes. 45 minutes at it moved too far. I estimate they were there maybe hour and a half, 2 hours before they got through the line. And I got to thinking about somebody that's disabled and has a disabled tag. And they finally, and some people would get out of the car while they were in line, talk to the car behind them or something. But for the most part, most people are kind of stuck in their car going through the line. And I thought, if you're disabled, whatever that disability is, and you get through the line and you get past the dumpsters and your legs cramp up, or for whatever reason your disability drives you to where you feel you need to park quickly and rest, and in front of you you see 5 handicap parking spots, and they go all the way down the line to where there's more of them, and you want to normally pull into one, as should your right be to pull into one, with the placard and the plate. And you notice that what I noticed is that there were 5 township vehicles, as I remember, in those handicap spots. Not all 5, there was maybe 1 down the line, so maybe 4 in a row, then a skip, and then another. I'm going off memory from what I recollect. And I did a little research, and I didn't see the handicap requirements with the plate or the sticker, the plaque that hangs, or anything like that. And I left. I went home and I did research. I think I talked to Skylar briefly. He was one of what I would call an offender, using a county car to park in handicap without a placard, as I understand it. And he gave me some reasoning that it's not an event open to the public, something like that. And I pointed out, aren't all these people public? So I looked at it as a public event open to the Delhi public, with certain stipulations, like all public events have certain criteria. And I think I even heard him at one time when he's talking with the sergeant say that he's not committing a crime, speaking about me. And I wasn't, and all of a sudden a place that I had been in where there was no problem, all of a sudden became a problem after I started protesting. And I went home, I researched the handicap laws, and the reasons that were given to me, I couldn't find anywhere in law that justified what I observed happening by government employees. And like we heard from the previous speaker, government often gets it wrong the first time, and the citizens got to do their research, come back to government, somehow escalate to a higher level, and then hopefully that next escalation gets them the people that are going to solve the problem. And when I went to Skylar as an escalation, it really didn't de-escalate, but escalated the situation. So out of that, I decided to protest when I came back. And I decided to protest legally, peacefully, and is my right to protest using language that some people would find offensive. the kind of language that the First Amendment was written to protect. It's not written to protect that you look great today, how you doing today, you're a beautiful person. No, it's to protect all the things that I'm not going to articulate in this meeting right now, out of the respect I feel right now for this body. But I will say that everything tells me it was legal. And I was kicked off the property, told I was trespassed. I got the PD report, and it was pretty bogus, as has been prior reports I've received. I plugged it into AI, Gemini AI, and asked it for feedback, saying, don't give me anything biased for me. I want the truth. Focus on the truth. And in essence, gave me 4 words, 3 different concepts. One was procedurally flawed. One was one-sided against me. And I don't remember the third adjective that was used, but it wasn't positive for me either. I went to Lieutenant Rich and asked him to get an updated PD report, because that PD report isn't just what AI told me, it was what my research told me is a bad PD report, and it starts suggesting cover-up. And I gave Delhi notice that, likelihood that I may sue, or that I'd be suing, freeze, keep all evidence preserved. And I put 2 offers out there that I thought were more than kind on my part. The way I understand the legal process would go is if I sue, I would likely win. I'd be awarded somewhere between $1 and $1,000 to $2,000, probably more on the dollar side. This is if we didn't negotiate something out. Lawyer guy, or what somebody else.
Don't do that, please.
Are you going to oppress my speech to
No, I said please no. It doesn't affect what you're saying one way or another.
It affects me because I have a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress I deal with coming up to this podium for the exact reason of how he responded to my grievance of an ethics violation last week, where he had to apologize to the trustees, which represent the people. So in essence, he had to apologize to the people for his unprofessional behavior, as I understand it. But I have every right to call anyone up here, any name I come up with. That's
Absolutely.
my understanding. And I appreciate my time not being taken to correct me when I'm exercising my rights, being quite reserved with the things I'm saying. And so, lawyer guy is something that Doug laughed at. It's really lighthearted if you take it lighthearted. If you want to make it a problem, you can make it a problem, but what problem are you going to make it? Try to make me look bad in a public meeting in the middle of my time? Or respect the rights that are given to us by our founding fathers, reestablished by several judges in case law, and several lawsuits since then of people like me that are trying to stand up for rights that you all slowly grind and take away by little pressures like, respect is a two-way street. The respect you all are supposed to give me is guided by professional standards that I'm not held to. The respect I'm supposed to give you all is guided by within law. And the laws between the two of us are different. And so what you've done tonight is that little comment you did took me off a big tangent of what I was speaking about.
Which comment?
Something about I shouldn't say lawyer guy. I don't know how, whatever your reaction to me saying lawyer guy was, took me off that big tangent in the middle of my time.
Well, first of all, your time is over.
Okay.
That's all right. As out of respect for you, I let you know. Are you going to finish or? See, I haven't stopped you. I didn't stop you last time, and I'm letting you voice it out now.
I might have misunderstood. I thought my time was my time.
No, my point is, you're making points, and you're doing it. To say lawyer guy and things, it doesn't add to your argument. That's all I was saying. You have every right to say it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't add. You're making points. You came with points to bring to everybody, and you're doing it. I was just saying that you don't have to go there. Talk to us. I don't think any of us have disrespected you from up here, have we?
Yes, I believe when you point out that I shouldn't say lawyer guy, that's a disrespect to my rights, and I think
I
it
didn't
has a
say you
disrespect.
shouldn't. I said please don't.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Making a
Please.
request for me not to exercise my public speech during a grievance.
You have every right to exercise that public right. Hear what I'm saying. What I was saying was, please don't go there. It's a positive conversation. You don't have to take a slam or a swipe at him. Even if you felt disrespected, we'll handle that. But for us and what you're presenting, it's good stuff. So continue it on. That's all I was saying.
I'll attempt to do that. I appreciate that. So ultimately, I was told I was trespassed from that property. It was reconfirmed by another officer that I was trespassed, and trespass was nowhere listed on the police report. The police report, the type of police report, was a non-offensive police report. And how can you trespass someone for something that's non-offensive? The other thing that brings into suspicion, when there was an enforcement action against me, and this was an enforcement action under threat of, I call it a torture cage, what you all would call a jail, under threat of arrest, I left the property. And my understanding is that gives me standing. Now, going back to who wins in that case, I'm awarded $1. What's that mean next time around if I win? If I win, it means that that particular officer, as I understand it, loses their, whatever that's called, their immunity. I forget what it's called. They lose, I can then sue them in their personal capacity and possibly other officers in the department if they commit that same offense. And what I've asked for is two things, and the deadline's now passed, but one thing was simply the body cam video for free. What used to be, until the township passed a resolution to charge us up to $75 an hour, what used to be free, and I would bet any of you if it was legal that it's going to be free again. Because while Ohio is dragging their feet on the law they're supposed to be getting passed, the feds have now taken that up in their committee, and one of those two is going to make it happen. We're going to get those free again. But had you given me the body cam for free, this would have been an overdeal. But now I think we have OSHA violations on top of the civil rights violations. So now we're going to be getting an OSHA involved. And I do want to talk about the lawyer guy thing for a second and say that I decided not to make an Ohio Ethics Commission complaint. And the reason for that is because it's the wrong body. And I can't speak at this time whether I filed any complaint with anybody. It's just that I didn't do it with the Ohio Ethics Commission. And I'm still looking for the PD to make right on that police report and to come out with what the truth is, because, you know, I heard months ago, I guess, that, you know, I think as year over year, crime went down 18%. And I think there's a couple ways that can happen. One way is crime can go down 18%. Another way is that enforcement can go down 18%. So when I was enforced against and kicked off property because of some violation I did, and it's recorded as non-offensive, and the fact that I was kicked off the property isn't documented like it should be an offense if I was offending and was punished for it, but it's listed as non-offensive, and it brings the reports that are put together that are reported to you into question. And I'm just hoping that this police report will come back. It's been over a week. I was told maybe by last Thursday I'd have it. I was apologized to today and, you know, told they're busy, and I understand that. I point out this is a second chance, and so, you know, this all could have gone bye-bye if y'all give me a body cam footage for free. That was just one offer. That was it. I've had a second offer, didn't hear anything back from your town lawyer, and what I'm being told is I get dollar, y'all lose some qualified immunity, and if I win, y'all pay my lawyer fees and his, in addition to court fees and the rest. He's going to get anywhere from, I would guess, $10,000 to $50,000. My lawyer will bill at a similar rate, and nobody wins but the lawyers. These folks I like to refer to as lawyer guys, because that's the people that set up the systems that we live under. A lot of lawyers in lawmaking positions, and they're getting rich off our backs. And so I was hoping Delhi would be more mature. I think the mature thing would have been to open up a channel of communication and evaluate the option to just say, hey, is it worth giving this guy the body cam footage I'm getting, I'm going to put up about $25 for. $25 roughly, maybe more, because maybe there's more body cam, would have resolved this. But now I'm in front of this podium, putting in my time, my stresses. I found out I've been looking for the wrong lawyer for a long time. That's caught me up for a long time. I now understand what kind of lawyer to look for. And it don't have to be a big one. It has to be a billable one they know they're going to win. That's what it comes down to, and that's what I understand. And with that, I appreciate the extra time, and I'm happy to answer some questions. There's things I can't go into because it is in process of pending going forward on the lawsuit.
Okay, Trustee Sturts?
No comment.
Trustee Seeley?
Rich, cleanup day in Delhi is a treasured thing for many of our residents. And, you know, we did close the parking lot, and we did close the senior center to make room for all the volunteers that were there to unload those cars. I can't tell you how appreciative so many of the residents were for the fact that they didn't care if they sat there for 2 hours. They were so appreciative of having the opportunity to clean out their garage or clean up their yard. And I'm sure Tony Roach or Ron will say they're happy that some of this got cleaned up at the same time. So I'm just very sorry that it ended with such a sour note, because it was such a good day for 30,000 people to have an opportunity to clean up. And your protest sign, I have a right to, and I was a little offended by it, okay?
It's meant to offend, because I was offended prior to that, and there was a
But
solution.
you succeeded, because that sign was offensive.
Yes, ma'am.
Just me.
It's offensive when people that aren't supposed to be in handicap parking, handicap parking, and I don't think that you have the capability to know whether the scenario that I described at the beginning of my speech actually did happen or not, and whether a citizen told me about that personally. You have no way of knowing that, so it's a real scenario that's not an extreme imagination you have to use.
Also
And there was a
understand that
solution.
we're there to accommodate every person that comes through in their vehicle. So if there had been a problem with somebody getting leg cramps or needing an ADA park, we would have been there to accommodate that, without a doubt. I don't doubt that one of the volunteers would have said, well, we're not going to move our car. We would have. But the parking lot was closed, and therefore those parking places were available. But I understand your point about ADA, and I respect it every place I go and don't park. But it's a very important day to a lot of people in this community, and I just don't want to see it tarnished. It costs the township a little bit to do it, but from someone who had to hire someone to clean away junk, it's a big opportunity for a lot of people to save a lot of money. So.
Chief Brown, do you have a comment? I do have one question. Was he actually trespassed? I wasn't aware of any of this, and so I appreciate you bringing it up. I'm just curious, what was he actually trespassed? And then you came back, you said?
I was not only trespassed, but I was told I was trespassed by a second officer who verified it with the first officer. And I'd also say that there was a solution at that time that day. All I was requesting that day is at that time I believe there were only 3 township vehicles. And all I did was ask them to move 3 township vehicles out of handicap parking, and they refused. That would have been another solution that could have, and you know who I am. I have no problem with offensive speech. One man's offensive speech is another man's charm song. And that's not the verbiage, but that's the context that high-level courts have determined and used in their determination to make the analogy that this is speech to be protected. And I also say that what happened that day is I would see citizens leaving, talk to officers, glance over at me laughing, and then on their way out say things that you would find offensive that they were saying to me. I was kicked out for flipping people off, flipping police off. And when I was out holding that offensive sign, I've had 2 citizens flip me off.
The sign,
What did my sign say?
well, I take it what you're saying, that the sign didn't say something good. Okay?
Well,
it expressed your feelings.
Some of you all find offensive, apparently.
Okay. Was the F-bomb on the sign?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And it was directed towards the police, because that's what upset you the most at that point.
The PD was on the sign as
All
well.
right. Were people that were coming in, let's say dad with his kids coming in, waiting in line with their stuff, were they able to see the sign?
I believe only people exiting at that time, and they were able to see the
Well,
sign.
everybody exiting, because you would have to do that. So
Everybody exiting had the potential to see the sign.
Yeah. And certainly a free speech, there's no question about that.
Well, you say certainly free speech, but I just described to you in my speech how when I was exercising that free speech on what you are calling a closed lot, which was open to the public in a public event that was announced at this exact public meeting. It was a public event. To say it was closed, it had traffic in it from end to end. To say it was closed, I mean, maybe you can say it was conditionally closed, but to say it was closed like it was a closed lot with barriers where you can't get in or out, I think is misleading. It was a public event open to the public, advertised by the public in a public trustee meeting. When I was exercising freedom of press before I was protesting, I was committing no crime, and then I was kicked off while committing no crime. And you say, of course it's free speech, but y'all are violating, and I mean the township as a whole, is violating the exact same speech out of one side of your being, while you're saying, of course it's free speech out of the other side. And that's what I'm fighting for. There's no way I want to go to court, spend the hours to find a lawyer to get, what, $1, so that next time I can see you for more money and let the lawyers get rich. That's the last thing I want to do. If you still want to talk solutions, I just as well prefer to talk about it in this public meeting so the public knows, and I don't have to go to my website to find out what's going on, because this is a no-brainer to me.
Okay.
I mean, because you know with the lawsuit that you take me there, that I feel like I got to make my point. And then next thing, I'm up on Delhi Pike expressing my freedom of speech. I'm out in front of wherever, C.O. Harrison. I'm down in Rapid Run. I'm all over the place. And we were close to a deal recently. We called it a reset. And some of y'all, I think, thought that the reset went through, but the folks I was dealing with firsthand knows it didn't go through. But part of that was that y'all were going to start following the law. And, you know,
Okay.
since then I pointed out.
We always will make every attempt to follow the law. We don't pick and choose what laws we'll follow. But I guess let me just say from where I am, Richard, you and I have had many discussions. You know, we're open to criticism. That's just life. It goes with it. Only because criticisms and people pointing things out, it makes the system better. It makes us better. It might make you better. Something where you did something that should have been, you look up and say, I'm sorry, I let it get the best of me. So I don't have any issue with that. I don't have an issue with you expressing your feelings and thoughts. That's what it's all about. I was curious as far as, one, what was on the sign and how many people saw the sign and whatever. But my point is, if in fact there was a violation, I guarantee you, if not tonight, but we will figure it out. If in fact there's a violation and those cars were parked and it should have been parked and it does technically, as you say, well, you did invite the public, so it is publicly open, whatever. I guarantee you that won't happen next year. And I would concur with what Trustee Seavey said. This is a great thing when people get all their junk out of their house, and these people doing manual physical labor, loading these dumpsters and over in the pouring rain, trying to do that. So if things were a little bit hairy and kind of like, come on, what are you doing? Because they're trying to get it done. Cars parked and the handicapped, township vehicles and things. I think that's something that needs to be figured out. And if we violate it, I guarantee you, I'll be the first one to apologize. You know what? I'm sorry, Mr. Gages. Those cars shouldn't have been there. They will not be there next year, and we'll handle it. Because I agree with you. I'd rather dialogue it. I'd rather find common ground and not have to pay all the lawyer legal fees and everything. Kind of like what we talked about last time. You know, whenever a records request is done, and we have to pay to have it, addresses taken out, so security numbers taken, we've got to pay for that. Just like records, when you try to get filmed from the police, not that you can't have it, but it all costs money when we're putting employee hours into it. That's all that is. And if they change it in the law and they say, no, you can't do that, we'll be the first to say, we won't do it. So those are the questions I have. One, what you're bringing up, if you're accurate, and I would suggest no answer tonight, but for us to actually look into it, and I'm willing to bet probably have, in order to find that answer. But I hope with whatever that is, we would rest with what the answer is, and you would rest whatever the law says. You know, I don't think anyone on that day was trying to just point at you. I think you just happen to be there, you're in the middle of a training, and then you start bringing up, hey, what about this, what about that, as people are trying to get stuff out, you know. But that sounds crazy, and I didn't know all about the sign and what was going on with that, and you know, so you had to be pretty upset to get to that point that you felt like, you know what, I'm going to come back and go at it. If you accuse us of not being mature, that going home, getting the sign, putting that up, and further exacerbates the situation, which none of us like that. None of us like that, you know, that any resident would get upset like that. But I do think we need to figure that out, Chief, and maybe you've looked into it, I don't know, but on the idea of the building closure and how that works.
So may I just make a statement real quick? I know Mr. Gages and I have had many conversations, and I will tell you that I know Lieutenant Smalls is looking at the, last Saturday's event, looking into it, everything that happened. reviewing all the body camera footage and all the footage that we have as far as statements made by Mr. Gagis. And then he's gonna make a formal report to me, and then I'll make a determination which direction we're gonna go. So it'd be premature for me to make a statement right now on anything. Lieutenant Schmaltz does a very good job, and I know you actually like Lieutenant Schmaltz a lot as well.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll make a recommendation. I gotta be honest with you, I think everybody in this room knows me, and if somebody did something wrong, and they say they did something wrong, then we'll get to the bottom of it, so.
Yeah, I can assure you that, Rich, Mr. Gagis, if we're doing something wrong, and I speak, I think, on behalf of us up here, we will correct it. It won't happen again next year. So, again, we're open to criticism. If we did something, then we'll have to look into it. But I hate to hear it. The day was, like you said, it was a huge success. I mean, I don't know how many cars whipped through there during that course of time with people just trying to clean their place up, and there you go. But
Mr. Chairman, can I make a
Yes.
ask a question? I wasn't there that day. I was out of town. But, Mr. Miller, was Mr. Gagis asked a couple times to move because he was in the way of the process and so on and so forth, and that's where this might have started? Or am I am I misunderstanding the beginning of this whole act?
I wasn't part of interaction with the officer on scene. I spoke to Mr. Gagis at one point because he had questions for me, and I said, well, let's get out of the way. Can we just go over here? So, yes, at one point in time, he was in the way of the operations, and I asked him to move. He asked me about the ADA parking spots, and I told him the building is closed to the public. These ADA spots are for the building. This is a planned event. We are stationed here, for a reason. We have every right to be parking in those spots. The police department had no issue with us parking in ADA spaces that were assigned to a closed building. Okay? He didn't want to hear that then, so I walked away from him and continued to, further away in the ranks.
But there's some safety issues of the location of people walking around in the path of whatever's going on there. Like I said, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I'm with you, trust me.
Yeah.
I think-
As far as the ADA thing is, I'm just gonna say the whole thing is ridiculous. You don't park, the ADA spaces are for the building access. If the building is closed, this whole scenario where somebody has to pull over and sit or something because they're in their car, I'm sorry, it's ludicrous. So, the township was staged the way they've done. I've been doing it for the last 4 years. I'm assuming it's been done in a similar fashion for the last 10, 15 or more years. We're staged that way because it works.
Flow,
Yep. And there has never been an issue in the history of this event where those ADA spaces came into question. They're not in question because the building that they're subject to was closed to the public. So the entire lot was not set up as a open to the public lot. It was, there were lines, or there were several rows of staged vehicles from the public. That it was a public event. I'm not arguing that point. But the entire lot was reconfigured in multiple rows, so people were queued up to get their cars unloaded. The entire purpose of that lot was to get people in and out. Yes, it takes a long time to do it. There were folks that came through, God love them, that came in with U-Hauls and had entire sheds in the back of their U-Hauls. It does take time to unload these vehicles. We have an amazing staff that work their butt off to make this event a success.
And that's exactly why I don't want to jeopardize it going forward in the future and having the ability to offer this to the residents of Delhi Township that have this kind of day. So whatever the issues, whatever the elements that are negative to this, let's resolve them, because I certainly don't want to have to resolve canceling a day that everyone looks forward to and has even asked the possibility if we could do it twice. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that this year, but it's something that everyone takes advantage of and looks forward to, and I don't want to see it jeopardized because of these points.
And there's no need to cancel the event in the future. There's no need to cancel the event in the future, and there's no need to change our layout. It works. It's worked. If we can do some process improvement, by all means, I'm sure it's been modified over time. You know, but we have to have room for the dumpsters to come in and out. We have heavy equipment over there. You know,
Yeah, if
the
it works,
ADA spaces are needed.
if it works, and if it's legal. And that's the question of the day, make sure that it's legal and that we've actually looked into it. Rich, I don't have any issue with the points you're bringing up because they're things we should get resolved if we're doing it the wrong way. And the same thing, if we're doing it the right way, then we need to say, here's why we did that. So to be determined on that.
I appreciate that. Can I make just a few more comments?
Yeah.
The fact that we're investigating it at this point in the process is a big problem for me. That permission, I was told, was given by someone in the police department personnel. And the fact that we don't then research it on the front end is a problem. I also say where I was at that time, I had, the time he's talking about wasn't unsafe. I was behind a thing that a car would have to run through to get me. I was told I could be in that area by a police officer or a corporal who later informed Skylar that he told him that I had every right to be there. And that didn't become a safety issue until after I started protesting and pointed out what I believe was a violation. And so I think the safety things that he's bringing up, some of them are just downright lies, out of context. And ultimately where I was standing when I was trespassed was where him and I walked to get to a place that he felt was safe. So I was trespassed from a place he felt was safe. Then when I was trespassed, I went to the sidewalk on that property, taking safety out of the question. No vehicles driving on the sidewalk. So I was trespassed, safety aside, I was trespassed for a reason individually, exclusively, non-safety. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate Mr. Davis's approach to trying to resolve things. It's recognized in me, and I do appreciate that. Thanks for giving me the time, and I look forward to working with the PD to get this resolved. And I have no offers on the table, but I'm open to hearing offers. And if you're saying that you're going to assure me that, and you can get the board together with a united statement to say that's not going to happen in future years, I think that alone can go a far way, because getting lawyers and going to court and all that stuff is like going to the dentist, or what I did today, going down and paying my tax bill. None of it's fun, and I'm already invested 3-4 hours into this that I don't want to be invested in. So I appreciate that. And
And if there's a violation, obviously, we'll look at it. We're not, something's brought to us and we did something the wrong way, and you know what, we learn how not to do it next time. And I've never, honestly, as long as I've been here almost 20 years, I've never seen anything like that, never kind of even thought about that. You have 200 plus cars lined up trying to get through, people are flying everywhere, there's a lot on people's minds, but the point you bring up, and I want to thank the McDonald's too, that's what government's about. Come here and talk it out, instead of blasting everybody on social media networks and going at it, and really tearing down the community. I really believe, and I think you guys do too, if you didn't care about the community, you wouldn't waste the time to come up. So I think we're on the same page. We care about what happens to Delhi, and that's the bottom line.
there were legitimate cars parked in handicap with legitimate handicap tags. So to say they weren't being utilized and to say that those handicap places are for the building, once you're through there and you go through the line, you can pull over, walk up to the building, and there's a ton of public information on the outside of the building that I've gone and gotten before, not during an event like that, but had I gone through the line, I should have been able to pull over and go up and get the public information off the door, in my opinion. But again, if you give me a chance to talk more, I'm gonna probably abuse that to my own shortcoming. I'm gonna walk away and say thank you.
And that's good. And Chief, we'll get back in touch with Mr. Gages when we have some definitive answers and such, and go from there. As we said, we're going to shut you down. We gave you more time, and we went from there. Dan, Ryan, I have to be honest with you, we're talking about the whole day there with the cleanup day, and picturing you on that bulldozer and just back and forth and doing it. Thank you, Dan, for so many. It was a long day. I know you're not at the microphone, but thank you.
Not to
Go
mention
ahead.
the lightning.
And the lightning, about the lightning. Go ahead, Dan.
Lightning in the Rains. I've been organizing that event for the past 22 years. We've never had any issues. We originally were at C.O. Harrison. We did the rear load dumpsters. Now we got the roll-offs because the event kept growing. The vehicles that Mr. Gage is suggesting was one of our dump trucks, public works dump trucks, that is there to collect the tires. The other vehicles are the public works trucks that have our brooms, our shovels and everything should something break and we need it. That's the reason those vehicles are there. We also had a tent up in case it rained, which it did. And unfortunately, we weren't able to take advantage of the tent, but it is there in case it rains. That's the only reason those vehicles are there, or for the tire collection, which this year I think we got 350 tires, and for the cleanup and in case something gets spilled.
Right, and I appreciate that.
That's
And
not
again,
true.
It just comes down to the bottom line, is it legal to do it, to allow it? We understand why, which makes complete sense. However, points that Mr. Gage brings up, what if this happened? Or what if someone needed to get in there? And granted, I think Cheryl's right, we'd be on it, but the facts are the facts, is it right or wrong? And unfortunately, that's the world, that's the government, that's the society we live in. It might not be popular, but if it's wrong, it's wrong, and if it's right, it's right. And Chief, you're gonna handle that and get with Mr. Gage, and you'll let us know also. Awesome, thank you. I think that's 5 minutes.
Time's fine.
Okay, approval of minutes, please. Mr. Miller?
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for April 29th and May 13th, 2006.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion approved. Approval of overtime, Mr. Miller?
Motion to approve payment of overtime for pay periods ending May 12th, 2026.
So moved.
So what he was saying about those vehicles over there, that may have been true for those 2, maybe 3 vehicles he described, but wasn't true of the vehicle Skylar Miller was driving, that he was parked in handicap. That vehicle wasn't used for anything other than the convenience to get there and to get out. That's what I observed anyway. It wasn't used to load anything. And what they're describing, one, they could rearrange the way that traffic flowed, because there was a whole set of non-handicap parking spots on the opposite side that were not being used. If they just flipped the flow of that traffic to go the other way, they could have left the handicap spots open and used all the parking spots that were non-handicap on the other side with the same result. They just didn't think it through. And the fact that they've done it for years and never had a problem. I went for years, I think even decades, without getting pulled over at Delhi Police, and then I roll through a stop sign and I'm getting pulled over when there's no safety issue or anything. And I get my car searched on a smell and they find nothing. So the fact that it's been happening so long and never had a problem doesn't, like Davis pointed out, doesn't relieve them from what the law says. And it goes into quantum physics, whatever that term is, where, reality doesn't really solidify in our sense until it's observed. And now that I'm observing government, I'm observing corruption after corruption after corruption. But yeah, Miss Rose, that setup question, oh, I wasn't there, but was he in a safety spot? What a BS setup question. Oh yeah, it was safety related. Nah, that's BS, total BS. When Skylar brought up the safety issue, it was when I called him over, not where I was regularly standing, but where I came in just a little to call him over. I was still in a safe spot. And the sergeant mentioned safety as a last minute second thought. And the fact that they wanted me off the property and not on a sidewalk on the property, and that they say it was closed, I think those are all misleading, all deceiving. To say just to say it was closed, nah, it was a controlled lot, but it wasn't closed, it was open. Just like you have a public event and let's say you're going to charge for it, So you control the entrance ways, right? You control the entrance and the exit, and within that area, you may even control the parking. Have police telling people where to park, so they direct them to the first parking spot first, and then fill it up in a sequence so that they all get utilized and people don't have to search for parking. So there's events where they control the traffic flow very carefully, but that doesn't mean they're exempt from handicap parking law. And then they may only let people in to the event that pay money. Or in this case, in this event, you're only allowed in if you have a Delhi ID. So to say that's closed, that's not closed. It's an open event, open to the public, advertised in a public meeting. And for them to say it's closed is a deceit too far. To take on face value. And so, just another example of Delhi living outside the law. And we'll see what this one comes back with. Imagine they're going to be making some excuses and stuff, or that's my guess.
With United Healthcare.
Jeff didn't look real happy about it, but I got a duty to do, and they got duties that they're supposed to do. And I don't appreciate being interrupted in the middle of my time because I called the lawyer guy. And then it sounded like Trustee Davis was raising his voice at me at one point as well. That's not kosher. That's not cool. And but it wasn't horrible, so you know, it's not a huge deal. But yeah, I'm getting out of here. This place stresses me.